You know, what if I told you that a single experience could completely rewire the way you see the world? For decades, we've thought that kind of life-changing moment only happened in one place, outer space. But what if the key to a totally new perspective isn't out there in the stars, but deep, deep beneath the waves?
So, before we can dive deep, we've actually got to look up. For more than half a century, the most profound perspective shift we've known about comes from seeing our planet from the outside, looking in. And let me tell you, it's an experience that has forever changed the people who have seen it.
It has a name. It's called the Overview Effect. Astronauts talk about this incredible feeling of awe, of seeing Earth not as a bunch of countries on a map, but as this single, living, breathing system, just floating in the blackness of space. It's a huge shift in consciousness, and it often lights this fire in them to protect our planet. But it also shows us just how narrow our normal, ground-level view really is.
One Aquanaut, who's also an astronaut, by the way, he put it perfectly. He said we basically see the world through a soda straw, totally oblivious to the infinite complexity that's happening all around us and even inside of us. We think that tiny little sliver of reality is the whole picture.
And this, right here, is the big question for us today. Could there be an earthly equivalent to the Overview Effect, a perspective shift that you find not in the silence of space, but in the depths of our own oceans?
Well, that brings us to a whole different kind of astronaut. Not one who travels the cosmos, but one who explores the ocean. I'm talking about the Aquanaut. These are scientists who don't just visit the ocean. They move in. For weeks on end, they live in these undersea research stations like Aquarius, which you're looking at right now. It's their home, their lab, their front row seat to another world. Believe me, this is way more than just a really long scuba dive. It's a completely different way of existing.
Okay, so this is super important to get. There's a huge difference between being a visitor and becoming a resident. A regular scuba diver, they're basically a tourist with a ticking clock. But an aquanaut, using a technique called saturation diving, becomes a resident. Their body gets used to the immense pressure, which gives them almost unlimited time to explore. But here's the wild part. For them, the surface is no longer the safe place. Coming up too fast would be lethal. Their underwater habitat is home, and our world up here, that becomes the alien planet.
So you have to wonder, right? What does living like that do to your mind? A recent study decided to find out, interviewing these aquanauts about what it's really like down there. And what they found, well, it was absolutely fascinating. Just look at this data. We're talking about some major cognitive shifts. A staggering 86%. That's nearly every single one of them said they started noticing tiny details in the environment they had never seen before on shorter dives. And a big majority started to see the fragility of the ecosystem, while just as many found themselves getting into that flow state where they were just completely lost in their work. This quote from Aquanaut G just brings that data point to life, doesn't it? When you're no longer just passing through and you become a resident, you're not just seeing a single photograph. You're watching the whole movie. You start to see the tiny, day-to-day changes, and you really begin to understand just how delicate that balance of life truly is. So what was the magic ingredient here? What unlocked this huge cognitive shift? For a huge majority, 79% of them, the answer was the exact same thing: the total absence of time pressure. That was the key.
As Aquanaut G puts it, a normal dive is a constant fight against limits. Your air, your time, the weather. But saturation diving, it just removes all those burdens. It gives the aquanauts the one thing they need to really truly connect with the world around them: time. Just the freedom to be there, to be present. And once you take that time pressure away, something incredible happens. The experience goes from being just in their heads to something they feel deep down, emotionally, and with all their senses.
And emotionally, this was just as powerful. When they looked back, their memories weren't about fear or stress. No, they were defined by these huge positive emotions, a deep appreciation for everything around them, a real sense of awe, and a feeling of complete tranquility. Those were the big ones. I mean, how do you even put a feeling like awe into words? Aquanaut D found, I think, the perfect way to describe it. It's not just seeing something pretty. It's like walking into a cathedral. It's that sacred, stunning, stop you in your tracks kind of beautiful. And these emotions were tied to some really unique physical feelings too. An incredible 79% talked about this feeling of total immersiveness. A deep sense of calm, the amazing feeling of being weightless, and for some, even these moments where the line between them and the ocean just disappeared. But let's be real for a second. This was no vacation. Living under that much pressure is incredibly hard on the body. 71% reported constant discomfort and exhaustion. There were absolutely moments of intense stress, and the high-pressure air actually made their senses of taste and smell go dull. And when they finally came back to the surface, many felt this jarring sensory overload as our noisy, busy world came rushing back in.
But even with all those hardships, the experience offered something truly rare. As Aquanaut G says, most people, even when they're in the water, are too anxious to ever get to this point. But for the ones who could get truly comfortable, there was a chance to become, in his words, one being in that environment.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway from all this? Why does this strange, profound, and really challenging experience of just a handful of scientists, why does it matter to the rest of us?
Well, here's why. Get this number, 93%, an absolutely incredible 93% of the Aquanauts said that living underwater made their commitment to protecting the oceans even stronger. This whole perspective shift, it wasn't just some cool feeling they had, it changed what they did. It was a call to action.
And that's why the researchers finally gave it a name, the Underview Effect. It's the underwater twin to the Overview Effect. It's a total shift in your mind, your emotions, and what you do. And it creates this deep, personal bond and a powerful sense of responsibility for our oceans.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last really big question. Most of us are never going to be Aquanauts, right? But the lesson here that if you remove distractions, slow down, and really immerse yourself in a place, it can change you. That's universal. So the real challenge for you, for all of us, isn't figuring out how to get to the ocean floor. It's how can we find our own underview right here where we live.